There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being surrounded and still feeling very unseen. You can be in a room full of people, laughing, talking, participating, and but deep inside, you feel something feels completely disconnected. And the confusing part is this: you start asking yourself, "What's wrong with me?" But what if nothing is actually wrong with you? What if your feeling is actually making sense? Hi, my name is Caleb Ngino, and this is the Charge TV podcast. And I am a real life nurse working in the emergency unit where I deal with life and death size situations every single day. But in this podcast, we are actually not gonna be talking about emergencies in the ER. We are gonna be talking about the ones people carry silently, the emotional emergencies, the psychological ones, the things people don't always say, but feel it every single day. And today we are going to be talking about something a lot of people experience a lot, but don't fully understand it. Why can you feel completely alone even when you are surrounded with people? So, loneliness is often misunderstood. Most people think loneliness is about physical isolation or being by yourself, having no one around. But psychology shows something completely different. Loneliness is not about the absence of people, or it's not actually about the absence of meaningful things that we encounter with people, but it's about the absence of meaningful connection. There is a difference between being around people and being emotionally seen by them. And when that emotional connection is missing, your brain still registers as kind of pain. In fact, loneliness activates similar regions in the brain as as physical pain, of course. Your mind is literally treating it as a disconnection or something quite threatening. Because at a deeper level, human beings are wired for connection. But here is where it actually gets deeper. Sometimes the reason you feel alone around people has nothing to do with them and everything to do with what you have actually experienced before. This is where things like attachment theory come in. The way you learned to connect with people early in life shapes how you experience connection right now. Now, if you grew up in an environment where your emotions weren't understood, your needs were probably being dismissed, or you had to earn love, for example, you may have learned something very quietly. People around, people are around, but they are not really there for you, or they are not really there for me. So even when people are physical presence today, a part of you still holds the expectation that expectation creates, and that expectation obviously creates distance. And when no one is actively rejecting you, another reason is something many people don't notice. You can't feel connected to others if you are not fully present as yourself. A lot of people walk into rooms wearing, for example, versions of themselves that they call it, for example, the accepted version or the strong version, probably the funny version, but actually not the honest one of themselves. This is just like stickers they put on themselves. And when people connect with that version, do you know how it feels? Completely hollow, empty, and because deep down, they like who I am pretending to be and not who I really am. So even in the middle of interaction, you feel completely alone. Not because people don't care, but because they are not meeting the real you. There's also something called emotional suppression. Some people have learned to hold everything in. For example, they don't talk about what is actually bothering them. They don't express when they feel hurt. They don't even follow or fully process their own emotions. So over time, this creates something we call in psychology an internal gap, where there is a gap inside you, but no amount of external presence can actually fully fill it. You can sit with people for hours. Let's put it this way, you know? But if your inner world is locked away, you're still feeling like you're sitting alone. And there is the modern layer of loneliness. We live in a time where connection is constant, but depth is rare. Social media gives the illusion that everyone is completely connected, but most interactions are surface level. You see updates, for example, you see highlights, you see moments, but you don't feel known. You get me? And slowly, without realizing it, you begin comparing your internal reality that you have in the inside to other people's external presentation. That gap actually creates even more isolation. You feel like everyone else is living, um, connecting, or probably thriving while you're just there. Another hidden factor is something called hypervigilance. So, hypervigilance, if you've been hurt before, for example, emotionally, your brain becomes careful. It watches now. This time around, it analyzes things. It looks for signs that someone might leave, judge, or probably misunderstand or hurt you again. So even when you're just with people, a part of you is not relaxing. It is doing what we call observation. It is protecting and holding back. And connection cannot fully happen when or where there is constant guarding. Here is something else that's rarely talked about. Sometimes people, or sometimes loneliness comes from outgrowing spaces. You can be surrounded by people you know from your past, laugh, who laugh with you, spend time with you, but no longer understand who you are becoming or who you are at this particular time in this space. And that creates a different kind of loneliness. Not because they are bad people, but because the connection you no longer that you had no longer matches your depth. You start craving conversations, for example, things that goes deeper. You start wanting meaning, growth, truth. When that's missing, you actually feel alone, even in familiar cycles, for example. So, what does all this mean? It means loneliness is not always a sign that you need more people. Sometimes it is a sign that you need deeper connection, safer places, more honesty with yourself, and more alignment with who you truly are. But here's the part that most or matters most. Feeling lonely around people does not mean you are unlovable. It does not mean you are difficult. Or probably it doesn't actually mean that something is broken in you. It has everything, or it means that your mind and your heart have learned patterns of protection that are still running in the background. And those patterns can change, you know? People uh, can actually change. Real connection starts in a different place than most people think. It doesn't start with finding the right people, it starts with becoming visible, not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually, saying what you actually feel, expressing what you usually hide, letting yourself be seen in small, real ways. Because the truth is this, for example, you cannot feel connected in spaces where you are not present as yourself. And sometimes it is also meaning choosing better environments in this particular case. Um, for example, I like using the word for example a lot. Not every room is meant for you. Not every group will understand you. Not every conversation will meet you now at your depth. And that's okay. That's really okay. You really need to know that. Loneliness can sometimes be an invitation to find spaces where you don't have to shrink, to belong. You see where the problem is? We try to fit in, we try to belong, we try to be understood in spaces that we don't even belong to. At the end of it all, loneliness is not just an emotion, it is information that is pointing to something, a need for deeper connection, and a need for the authenticity, a need for emotional safety, and a need for growth. And when you start listening to it, instead of fighting it, for example, you begin to understand yourself more clearly because Maybe the goal is not just to be surrounded. Maybe, actually, the goal is to be seen. And more importantly, to allow yourself to be seen. And maybe that this feeling of loneliness you've been carrying isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. Maybe it's a signal, a quiet reminder that you were made for something completely deeper, something what, or something that is what just more than just being surrounded. So instead of actually ignoring or trying to drown it out, start listening to it. Because sometimes loneliness isn't asking more people, it is asking for more honesty, more depth, and more connection. And that starts actually with you, allowing yourself to be seen. If it is, if this thing is actually resonating with you at this particular time, I want you to take a moment, sit with it. And if you know someone who might be feeling this way too, I want you to share this with them. You never know, or you never truly know what someone is actually carrying in the inside silently. All right. I want you to do that for me. My name is Caleb Nieno, and this has been the Tragedy podcast, where we don't just talk about the emergencies in the ER. We don't talk about that alone here. We talk about the ones that people carry every single day within their hearts. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, and take good care of yourself.